Diggin The Crates.
This is Diggin The Crates. I'm Vice Beats. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 4 of the podcast, brought to you by The Find. An aspect of Diggin The Crates is that the interviews are from various times. This interview was recorded in November 2019. Since then, things have been massively changing in terms of the musical and political landscape. The team at Diggin The Crates and The Find would like to send our deepest love and respect to the Rhymesayers family alongside their fellow Minneapolis residents, and to acknowledge and support the movement which is taking place and to honour the loss of George Floyd and the numerous other wrongful deaths before him. The Find will be donating all digital proceeds from their Jazzvolution compilations on Bandcamp to Reclaim the Block until 15th of June. To find out more about the crucial work they're doing, go to reclaimtheblock.org. Now back to today's guest. As already mentioned, he's a member of the Rhymesayers family, and he's crafted his own unique sound and message within hip-hop. This is Diggin The Crates with Grieves.
And now for our feature presentation.
All right, here we go.
Hello, sweet child. This is Grieves from Rhymesayers Entertainment, and I'm chilling with Vice Beats and Diggin The Crates. Holler at your mama for me. I'll call you later. Bye.
Derelict flow running. Motherfuckers always hating on something. Took a small break to fill up my plate, cause all of this running around got me hungry. Tell 'em I'm back. Chillin' my glass. Ain't no need to be panicked. Soon as I knock this back, I'ma rock that ass like stop. Skinny Bone Jones with immaculate flow.
Didn't even know that he could rap like that though.
Yeah, well, who's the asshole that told you I had to rap slow? Point him out. I stepped into my future, blocked out that noise, and I came back with a vengeance, like I'm Bruce Willis on roids. Tell me now who got that smooth shit, sipping on some LaFord, and I walked out of that smoke cloud with my game tight and on point. I'm feeling real good right now, yeah, I'm feeling real fine.
And a little drunk.
Grieves, welcome to Diggin The Crates.
Thank you, man.
So how did you get into hip-hop?
I mean, hip-hop was like this. It was always around, and like when I was like a kid, you know, we had like Naughty by Nature and Criss Cross and shit like that. But it wasn't like, I don't know, I remember the first hip-hop record that like made me want to like buy a hip-hop record was the Warren G record, the Regulators or whatever. But I was young. I was in like like 3rd or 4th grade, you know, and I saw it on Yo MTV Raps, and I was like, look at this. And then the video was very like, you know, I hear my mama in the street lights telling me to come home, and I was like, it was so like visual to me, even though I was a kid, you know, and you know, you had the video and everything like that, but I don't think my parents will let me get it, or I didn't have any money. My parents were very like, if you want that, then you can buy that, but you're a kid and you don't have any money, so you ain't getting shit. But the first records I bought with my own money weren't of the hip-hop realm. They were Green Day, Dookie, Offspring, Smash. I don't know why, but Aerosmith, Get a Grip. I don't know why I bought that. But, you know, they were tapes, and you know, I got really into like punk rock and stuff when I was younger, because you know, my friend Brittany's older brother was in a band and he was cool, and
kind of more led by that side.
Yeah, and I was raised on music, you know, like my dad was like he was super into like Chicago blues and soul and really into folk music, like kind of by the belt with Bob Dylan. Like we were raised on that. So I always had music in my life, and when I got into like kind of the angrier, harder music, I didn't get into the stuff that was just like, blah, 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 blah. It had to have some sort of like melodic overtone to it. So like NoFX was huge for me. And then I heard Wu-Tang, and I was like, whoa, those are my dad's records. Like, and I started listening to more and more hip hop, and I found like I really got into the East Coast stuff a lot. It was much more my vibe, because coming over from that aggressive kind of punk realm, it still had that edge, but it had these like, you listen to like some of these Mobb Deep beats and stuff that the Alchemist was making, like they're these like pretty little kind of sad, you know, piano tracks, and then they're just like, I'll cut your face with a box cutter, and I was like, what? I love this.
A young youth, you're rocking the go-to, low goose, only way I
I began to G-York was drug loot. And let's start it like this, son. Rolling with this one and that one, pulling out gats for fun. But it was just a dream for the team who was a fiend. Started smoking rules at 16 and running up in gates and doing hits by high stakes, making my way on 5 skates. No question I was speed for cracks and weed. The combination made my eyes bleed. No question I would flow off and try to get the dough off, sticking up white boys on board porch. My life got no better, same damn low sweater. Times is rough and tough like leather. Figured out I went the wrong route, so I got with a sick ass click and went all out.
So that became like great, and I love those tempos, you know, those like kind of low to mid 90s tempos. And West Coast at that time was very like synthesizer, like the beats were very different, and I wasn't really fucking with it. And then I came up on the West Side Connection Bow Down record, and I was like, okay, never mind, I'm fucking up. And I went on this huge Ice Cube kick for a long time, and then I realized, you know, like my friends were like drawing a line, like, oh, it's gotta be East Coast to West Coast. I was like, we're not even, it's like 2001 right now, like it's not even a thing, like we can listen to everything. And I dug in, and then I found kind of like the independent hip hop stuff. And I skated a lot as a kid, and I was at the skate park one day, and I found this like CD. It was like, you know, Ryan's Skate Mix or whatever it was. You know, it didn't have any info on it. It was just a burned CD. And I was listening to it, and there was all these songs on there that I'd never heard before. And I was like, what is this? And I would bump it in my car all the time, but I had no idea what it was. And one day my friend Dusty, he was from Iowa. He was much older than us, but he was like the older dude at the skate park. And he's like, oh, you're bumping Atmosphere. I didn't know that they listen to Atmosphere out here. I was like, what's up? I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, I just found this like at the skate park. And he's like, oh, I got to show you. And he like has all the headshot tapes. He hit me to Idea and Abilities, just everything. And it like cracked that nut wide open. And then from that point forward, it was like all the Company Flow stuff, the Mr. Lift stuff, like just all the way down the rabbit hole. And I was like hip hop as fuck, you know, like I was trying to break dance, I was writing graffiti, like I got so into it, and like I was completely immersed in this culture that I had found. And it was at that time I was living in Colorado. I was born and raised in Chicago, and then my parents moved me to Colorado because my dad got a job out there, and there was nothing, you know, like there's no music, there's no local hip-hop groups. There was like one group, and they were dicks, and like, you know, there was just nothing there. But I was kind of developing my craft as an MC. Like I was at that time was really good at freestyling. I'm not anymore, like at all. It is, that skill has left me completely. But we would go to the record store, and we'd have this old dude order us all the B-side vinyls of the Wu-Tang tracks because they would have the instrumentals on the back, so we could rap over those. And it was like, it was everything. Like we would take time out of our weekends to like do this shit. And now I look back and I was like, wow, I was that kid, like super annoying, like hip hop, I'm gonna force it on you, like this is so stupid. But I ended up moving away for college, and I didn't know anybody or have anything, and the one thing that I did have was my music and to write, but I didn't have access to like any beats or anything like that. So I just started teaching myself how to produce. And I had been in bands and had like a slight musical background to me. And I was just lucky to like run into the people that I ran into. Like I ran into like one of the first weeks that I was there, I ran into Macklemore, and we became very close friends for a really long time because we're like, yo, you like hip hop, I like hip hop, and we're out here and we don't know anyone. He was from Seattle, which is real close. It's like, 40 minutes away from where we were going to college. But, and then I, through him, discovered this hip hop scene in Seattle. And there were like legends, they never made it out of Seattle. So those names wouldn't ring any bells now, but like, other than Macklemore, of course, but like, there was stories of these people and the things they had done, and like, oh, if you want a beat from blah blah blah, like you gotta come super correct, and like, the Jake ones and the Vitamin D's and the Bean ones, like these like super producers that actually did have quite big careers. Jake one's now doing the Tuxedo stuff with Mayor Hawthorne, and produced, just throughout the ages, tons of hits for like De La Soul and other people. And so that's when I really started crafting my career as an artist, because I was now surrounded by other artists. I went to school for music production and audio engineering to hone in on the things that I would have to take years trying to learn from somebody else, you know? Then I got an intern at a studio, and then things just kind of happened. I didn't fight for it super hard. It's not like it's something that I was like, I need this. But, you know, I had a community around me that really pushed for my success, and I was super lucky for that.
So you say kind of you didn't have to push too hard on that side of things. So what was the first step for you? Like what was the first break where you thought, damn, something's happening here?
I put a record out in 2007 called Irreversible, and it became relatively like the tracks. This was height of the MySpace era, you know? So like Tom had he found me somehow and made me the song of the week or something on MySpace. So I was just getting millions of plays right off the gate. As soon as I uploaded it, I was like, wait, what?
You heard an old man's noise, heard every tear that he wept and every crack in his voice, heard every fear that he kept and every passionate joy as he scrambled across the keys and I played with my toys. And I saw the power that projected from that living room. That man lost his family and everything that he ever knew. He played the piano like it saved him from the hell he flew, running from the pain that awaited from being raised a Jew. Some people paint with their music, stimulate your senses, enabling you to view it. But those notes raised me and trained me to take a tune with me everywhere that I go, making my home where the music speaks.
You swear you've heard it before as it slowly rambles on and on. No need in bringing them back, cause they've never really gone. When the lights are low,
I can still hear the music this old box used to play. And I am what I am cause of you, and they can't take that away.
when the lights are low,
I can still hear the music this old box used to play. And the man that I am's cause of you, and they can't take that away.
So it was really lucky. I don't know a better word. I know people hate hearing that because sometimes they listen to things like this and they think that they could pick apart what I'm saying to maybe be successful themselves. And I don't think I have any information that I can give you to make you successful, because, art is there's no stair steps to success with art. Either people like what you're doing or they don't. And if you're replicating something that other people like, people don't like that either. So it is kind of luck. It's a toss-up. And I know tons of people that are way more talented than me that won't have a career and can't. Even if I gave them mine, they would squander it. So it's like a piling up of all these different skills. But back then it started happening, and I had a little bit of music business going on, and I wasn't super flattered by it all, so it wasn't it didn't fuck me up here. I was able to keep my cool about it. At least I feel like that was in hindsight. But so that happened, and then almost immediately there's this group out of Seattle that is signed to Rhymesayers. They're called Grayskull. And they were coming through the studio a lot. I had been working with Mr. Liff in the studio a lot because for some reason he was in Seattle for an undetermined amount of time, a couple months. And I was like, why are you here? He's like, don't worry about it. And I was like, okay. I was like, I got a studio if you ever want to rock. And he was in the studio every day, which is how I got Mr. Liff on the record. And he became a mentor to me at the time. And that was really inspiring. Being surrounded by people that have done great things and made music that you look up to is inspiring, and I think can be as successful for you to learn from those people, just energy-wise, and craft-wise. And then, right out the gate, Grayskull was like, hey, do you want to go on tour with us? We're going on this 2-month-long tour with Atmosphere. I was like, are you kidding me? And I was like, what would I be doing? They're like, well, we can't we can't give you a set because it's not our tour, but you could DJ for us and we'll let you rap during our set once. You're gonna have to be over one of our beats. We're gonna clear a verse out for you, but you can do that. And that was the beginning of it. Straight up, we were getting calls from Warner Brothers after that tour. It was luck. I just happened to be there. They offered it. I had the means to make it happen. I quit my job. I went on the road for 2 months, came back with nothing, and it was a lot, but I did it. I took these wild leaps, a lot of wild leaps. But that was a big first wild leap, and it led me into this place where at that point I had leapt so far that I couldn't really turn around. So I had to figure out how to make this work for me, financially and just as a lifestyle and to make my living off of it.
I mean, I guess it sounds like, it's a combination of luck and courage, really, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Because it is scary. This is half the people that I know that are way more talented than they'll never do it because they can't give up the other things that they have. Or they're wildly afraid of failure, that they'll never put themselves in a situation where they could fail. It's okay to be, the underground legend, like, oh, that guy was so tight, he never got his chance. It's like, yeah, because he never took one on purpose, because now he gets to be this, like, slept-on legend in your eyes, and he never had to face failure,
There's so many artists like that. Every city you go to, there's always these artists who've just kind of been hidden away. And that, like you say, it's that persona, isn't it, where it's almost legendary status, but they haven't taken those risks. But yeah, it's a crazy thought in that sense, how many artists there are out there like that.
And I do believe that every artist has that moment where they got to put it all on the line. And I would think most don't take it. And I can't tell you that you should or shouldn't, because I don't know your life. I don't know you could be homeless when you come back. Like, I don't know your situation. And I barely made it happen. I took everything I had, and I sold everything. I got rid of everything that I had to do that tour. I was sleeping with another dude in the bed, like sharing a bed with another dude in a hotel. It kind of sucked.
Have you got your own bed now?
I do. I get my own bed. Sometimes I get my own room, man.
What?
Yeah, big shit. Big shit happening over here. Yeah.
You said that you got into this through mixtapes and the skate culture, all that side of things. Hip-hop's got such a link into the skate scene. Did you find around you that there was lots of other people getting into hip-hop with you?
Yeah.
Did you feel like you were more kind of steering in a different direction to others?
I think that the music that I was finding and the time that I was finding it at, we kind of all were, regardless of what we liked, right? Because I was coming over from the punk realm. There was like metalheads and this is why I think they say Wu-Tang is forever, because like, go anywhere, and chances are one of these motherfuckers know who Wu-Tang is, and they could they know like I was walking around Barcelona the other day, and we had been there for 6 days. It was great, and I had just gone shopping for my girlfriend, found a little thing for her, and we were like, I want to find a bar. And we start walking around, and we see this place, and it says 2 Schmucks outside. And I was like, oh, that's funny. And then I look down to the left, and it's just a Wu-Tang quote paid on the side of the building. I was like, we're going in that bar. We went in that bar. They only played, early 90s, mid-90s hip-hop. Turns out that they were doing a pop-up with a guy from San Diego called Bartender at Large, which is like one of my best friends, his idol in life. He's like a craft cocktail god. And so I'm like, what is going on? And then the owner comes out, and he's like, did you post something on social media? I was like, yeah. And he's like, all right. And he starts playing my music, and he's from Sweden, and he knows the people that I made Running Wild with, my last record. And we just get talking, and then the dude from San Diego shows up, and we all take a photo. They're they make a Manhattan in my mouth, and it's and it was such a good night, and I would have never walked in that bar if there wasn't a Wu-Tang quote on the outside, Yeah. So people, mainly kids, defined their social identities by the music they listened to a lot. But that smashed barriers, all of my punk homies were listening to all of this kind of gully. It was the gully rap, we loved that. They weren't really listening to the West Coast shit, but some of the artsier kids were like, ooh, they sampled Funkadelic. I really like that. And it's all right, cool. So we all were able to find hip hop at the same time. And I mean, I really don't remember there being like a rift. And we were all looking for something to be a part of. That's why we were skating, we just needed something, we needed to get some energy out. We needed something to belong to, because we were all kind of outcasty, shitheads. And we found kind of, family within each other. And, the skate park was like a hollow ground. And that's just where we found shit. I was a terrible skateboarder, but, I still I have these friends to this day, So
community element to it.
Yeah. And the music was a big part of that. But at that time, it wasn't okay, you're with the hip hop dudes, you're with the punk dudes, you're with the metal heads, you're with like the pop music, you know, like that was the end of like the categories for us.
So you said that you started off making your own beats and all that side of things. Like, what was your process with that? Like, what did you use? And are you still finding that you're into that element as much, or would you say that you're steering off it a bit more now that you're doing albums in this way?
Well, when I first started, I started with like Fruity Loops. Like my roommate in college had like a hacked version on his computer, and it like barely worked, but it worked enough to get like a drum beat down, like some stupid melody or like whatever, like Simon and Garfunkel sample that I would put in there or whatever. I just didn't give a fuck when I was younger. I would sample whatever because I was like, no one's gonna pop me. Like I don't even know how to get this off the computer. Like I don't even know how to like listen to this after I make this. Like it might be the only time I hear it. And so, you know, eventually I got better, and, you know, I took the super duper hip hop route. I got the, you know, Akai MPC 2000 XL with the 8 ins and the 8 outs and the little shitty effects on it, and the scuzzy zip disc thing, you know. God, and I was like, I got a gig. You're still using floppy disks? I got a gig worth of sounds. And people are like, shit. So stupid. And, you know, I made millions of beats on that.
Shaggy, it's been a minute, now I'm back up on these beats. Tell your mama fine, call her back, she didn't make the team. I'm on some other shit, go and pick it up, try to run with it. Stupid motherfuckers getting rich up off some mumble shit in my house. Camel clutch a tap out, suck a bunch of dicks, so you been sleeping on my cam now. Been doing this for decades, homie, we don't plan on standing down, we're coming through your speakers. They like, Mayday, Mayday, man down, Mayday, Mayday, man down. Fuck with me and see, you keep talking about your hustle like you out here in these streets. Ain't nobody know your name, you out here acting like a bitch. And if life don't pull your card, I got some homies that'll roll up in assists. Tell me something, do you believe in fate? When it comes down to that sacrifice, can you even relate? Ain't nobody out here acting right, they talking out the side of their mouth. I get they mama on the phone, I tell her what I'm about. It's man down.
I used to go to there was a record store right by my apartment. Well, it's called Half Price Books. So it was like, you know, you get used media there. So like books and CDs and DVDs, and they had records. And I would go in there and I would buy a stack of them. And then I would just run back to my apartment and I'd needle drop just like as much as I could. I'd like fill the disc up, and then I'd go back and return them because I didn't actually have any money, you know, because I like needed money for groceries and shit. So then I would go back and return them and be like, I don't need these. Like, I don't know why I bought these. And they'd be like, okay, dude. You know, because they didn't know that I was sampling them. They knew that I was doing it a lot, but they didn't know why. Maybe they just thought I was a little crazy, but, you know, whatever. So, yeah, I was just, like, dropping needles, like, all the way down the record, and then I would just make beats off of whatever I could, like, capture from these, like, 12 records in, like, the 20 minutes I had in my apartment. And then someone stole my MPC, so I was like, shit. But at that time, I was, like, pretty, you know, I was using like Reason and Pro Tools and all that stuff. So then I kind of forced myself to like make beats strictly in Pro Tools, which was new for me. But that's when my sequencing got a lot better. And I started wanting to, you know, instead of doing like 2 4-bar loops, I'm like, let's do 8 16-bar loops. You know, like
switching up.
Let's go bigger because I have infinite space now. You know, and like, let's put 27 samples in here too. Like, let's do every damn thing. And so then I feel like my process got really creative because then I was able to do all these things. But that was also the time where I was like, I've learned so much about music at this point. I'm running out of options with these samples. Like, I'm not able to, like, the amount of times that I would be like, I just wish it would do this here. And, you know, even if I play piano in that part, it's a mass difference, especially at that time, like 2005. Like, unless I went and mic'd up a piano and ran it through some old analog gear, which I couldn't get my hands on, there's no way that I can match that tone as easily as you can today, which you can so easy today. But that was really hard. And so that was when I switched my focus to like, all right, let's start playing these things and see if we can make it sound like a sample, which was a lot harder. And it, as I said, it's gotten exponentially easier. And as it gets easier, I'm more and more inspired by it. And it's definitely something that I will keep and maybe even just fully switch over to, you know, when my time is up and I can't keep touring and, you know, all this stuff. I'm in my mid-30s now, and or, you know, go to work for the companies that make these things that make it easier.
Yeah.
Because I love that stuff. I do a lot of work with Universal Audio, and, you know, I help with some product launches and reviews and stuff with them, and I would love to go full force more into that world if music stopped providing for me. But I could still have a life of music, you know? So, yeah, and my new EP that just came out, which is the Collections of Mr. Nice Guy, that's all self-produced. I did all of that. So, and I think I want to do more. Like, I think my next full length, I'm going to just do it all. But I'll hire, like, you know, I'm going to hire the musicians that I want and you know, rent studio time I'm a big fan of organic strings. I don't think that's something that we've done yet. I think the VST strings are, you don't get the humanity out of them. You know, you can do the pads and like the kind of movie score stuff really well, but you can't get the bowing out of it. So yeah, I might want to just take all these ideas that I have and take the budget that I would normally spend on another producer and just throw it at other people to like come in and play these things and see what we can.
We don't really talk about anything worth a damn now. Slowly drifting farther apart with both hands out. I remember when I used to be your man, and now you treat me like a roommate that you can barely stand now. I guess it's only natural to grow apart. I hope you find what you're looking for and you make a spark. The hard wants with the hard wants, man. I fucking hate that saying.
I'll be better off this time. Soon as I get you off my mind, girl, I'll be better. I'll be better. Wasting all my time. Soon as I get you off my mind, girl, I feel better. I feel better.
Yeah.
Your production style is really interesting because it's almost got that 20 Sil Hocus Pocus vibe to it, but then like nods to like the 90s golden era sound. Yeah. How do you start off with that? Is there a specific thing? You just think, hey, I like that sample, I'm gonna go with that? Yeah.
Now this is gonna come across maybe kind of stupid, but I'm like, I definitely felt stupid when I started doing this, but I don't care anymore. Like, I don't care what other people think I need to be doing to make the music, because if I don't say anything, then you don't know, and then it doesn't exist. And if I do, then you're like, oh, well, dude. It's like, you liked it before you knew, so shut your mouth. Like, I hate that. But I've been using Splice a lot.
Oh, nice. I love Splice.
I love it. And because not even if I'm using it for the direct samples, which sometimes I do. Like, sometimes I find one in there, I'm like, this is badass. I'm gonna chop it up a little bit. I'm gonna slow it down just like I would from anything else. And I never have to worry about getting sued for it. Cool. That's what it's there for. Plus, I did it before you did, so good. But like, knowing it's like, let's say I sit down, you know, I have a Rhodes in my studio, so let's sit down and I'm mashing around on some chords and nothing happens, and I'm just like, I'm not inspired today. I treat this like my job, so something's got to get done today. Now, it doesn't have to be, you never have to force a song, because then you're just making bad music and you're wasting everybody's time. But what else could I do? Okay, well, let's like look for samples. Sometimes I'll just go through YouTube and just like listen to like old cutty like Japanese soul records, and I'll be like, oh, that's tight. I like that like synth line. I'll be like, well, how would I do that? And so then I pull up my synths and like start like making synth patches. That's valuable to me, because then I have that when that idea comes around again. Or maybe I'm re-inspired. Maybe I'm listening through stuff on Splice and I'm like, oh, that guitar line's cool. It's way too noticeable, but like, you know, go get my guitar and like dial in that tone and then come in with something that is more me. So I love Splice for that, and putting it into little samplers like Arcade and stuff like that, and just chopping it all around, and like, you're like, woo, like, it's a really good like creative tool. And the drum sounds, just having access to the drum, being able to type in like round analog kick or so, you know, like you're like going through your drum sounds and you're like, God, where's the one that sounds like this? And then you can just type that in, and then there's a million of them. I'm also not one of those producers that's like, I'm not telling you where I get my drums. Like, now I'm getting my drums from Splice, because now I'm not like going through, like, I was that dude. I was needle dropping drums and like cutting them all up and running them through compressors and like trying to do all that shit. And like, I have those drums. They don't sound anywhere near as good as the ones that are on Splice. You know, like
you can actually use.
Yeah, like save me the time in the studio. Like, why am I spending all this time to mix these drums down just so I could say that that's what I'm doing? Like, if that lended itself to my style of production, like Apollo Brown, you don't know if there's even drums in that song sometimes, you know? Like, he did that whole record with Planet Asia, Anchovies, and I was like waiting for the drums to drop the whole time. But they were in there, they were just like little sampled drums that sounded like they were part of the sample. And, you know, that works really well for him.
Lambo race, Miami space, Scarface. High speed chases, dual exhaust your whole face. Halal tuna and Laguna. Rumor is he used to be a shroomer. How his mind is psychedelic with humor. I'm an OG, you still a junior. I took a Uber to Laguna to meet with the Uma. Sea bass, garlic, we mash harlots. Crash parties, white bitches sniffing lines, screaming that's gnarly. Coconut oil, my bitch is loyal. Peanut butter scan, cinnamon, Sheba Queen, exotic empress.
Those drum sounds would drive me fucking crazy if I was trying to make beats with those, you know? Because I believe in this like space. I don't layer stuff up a lot. I think that there's a way to create this like soundscape, and I hear it before it exists, and drums are a huge part of that. The correlation between the kick and the bass is like has to be made in your brain before you start laying those things down, or else you're sacrificing things. And when you really choose those sounds well, way less time in the studio, like way less time mixing these tracks, and way less like compromise, you know? So if you're like, okay, this song I'm going for the kind of older like East Coasty, so it's going to be kick heavy, and that bass is going to be kind of like, it's going to be thinner, so I might even shelve it to like 100 something, so you're just kind of hearing the. But if I'm trying to do that modern stuff, then I want the kick that punches over the bass, and that bass, fuck it, if it's hitting at 20, it's hitting at 20, let it go. And that's so easy to do on Splice now. So, and like if I'm looking for little accoutrements to throw in, like little samples or little vocal embellishments, I can be like, well, my song's in E minor, I'm looking, and I can just type in vocal E minor, and then there's 20,000 vocal cuts in E minor, and you're like, I love it, you know? Or you could go A minor, like you could transpose so it still works in the key, you know? You don't have to be in E minor, but like, it's so cool. It's so cool.
Sponsored by Splice.
Yeah, I wish. Holler at me, Splice. Damn.
I mean, you've been rhyming for a long time now, man. I mean, do you remember any of your first bars? Because I know you said you came from like the freestyle side of things. Do you remember any where you're like, damn, that was actually kind of good? Like
my first bars? Yeah, I mean, like I would write, like I was, at that point, I think I was really kind of like copying what I was hearing. So I was doing like a lot of and like saying words that don't need to, you know, like finding like chemical compounds and like, you know, like looking at the dictionary and shit for like being like, okay. And like just going through and like trying to make it sound like I was more than what I was. And then I remember I wrote this song called Fairy Tale Bullshit, and it was just about love, and it was like the most honest like expression. And then I would like play it for some people, and they'd be like, that's really good. Like, I don't have to think about this song. It just hits me where it hits me. And I was like, oh shit. And then I was like, I can write songs like that all day long. And I just started cutting tracks. So I don't think my first bars were great, but they were, you know, I was like trying to sound like I was like one of them boom bap rappers. My metaphysical, like it's so stupid, but like it's just what I was listening to, and it's like that was so foreign to me. Like same with the done language stuff from all the gully rap. Like I was like, what is he talking about? Like I have no idea what those Wu-Tangs, like in those Wu-Tang skits, I was like, I don't even know what you are saying right now, but I like it. I think I know. So yeah, I was kind of like chameleoning onto stuff back then, but when I found myself is when the bars started really happening.
Out of all of the songs you've made, is there one where you feel like you're proudest of it to date?
I don't know. It like varies a lot, you know, because I get excited about certain elements of a song. And so I guess the question would be like, is there one that lines up on all the elements that like, you know, form this like eclipse of, and I don't really know, because like looking at songs like Kidding Me, I've always like referenced in this, because production wise it is what I wanted it to be to a T. And then when I had finished the song, I was like, it could still be more. And then that's when we put a fucking orchestra in there, like a real orchestra in there. And it was like, the song was already like overproduced. And I was like, nope, keep going. And it's like, when that hook hits, it is so huge. But then the hook is like, you fucking gotta be kidding me. And it's like, it's a mixture of my humor. It's a mixture of the beauty that I like in production. I really like those, like, I like beautiful note arrangements, but sometimes I like to say not so beautiful stuff over them. And then it's also a song that is, as described, you don't have to think about it. There's no metaphysical, biddable, like there's none of that. It's just straight to the point. It's kind of funny, but it is also like, I relate to this.
Fucking gotta be kidding me. Look at all that you did to me. Why the hell would you be wondering who's kissing me now? You fucking gotta be kidding me. Look at all that you did to me. Why the hell would you be wondering who's kissing me now?
Whoa, 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 whoa. You could play it for somebody who's going through it, and it could inspire them to rise above, like their emotional turmoil. Or you could just listen to it and just be like, the song's tight, like it covers a lot of range, and it fits in my wheelhouse really well, and I love that song. I love playing that song. I end with it every tour. I don't care. For the rest of my career, chances are that will be the last song that I play before the encore. So
that kind of proves that then, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like that.
Yeah.
It sticks.
Well, and it's like, where do I put that song now? Like, there's like a 8-piece orchestral arrangement at the, like, where do you put that? What follows that? That's where you go, have a good night, like you walk off on that.
Yeah. So are there any artists that you would love to work with? Because you've mentioned where you want to go with the production and you'd love to continue on that front developing, but are there any specific artists where you think I'd love to do a track with them? Like, is there any where you actually kind of picture a track, not just kind of icons in the game, but more kind of you think, yeah, we could work?
Look who does that probably the best is Questlove, I would love to work with Questlove, but I don't know what I would do, like I would generally feel pressure working with Questlove. I wouldn't know what to do. First of all, I wouldn't know what to say to him, so I would need to know him first before we work together, like need to go to one of his dinner parties or something. He throws a lot of dinner parties, so like, but just like, hey, do you want to work with Questlove? He's in the studio today, you have 3 hours. I'd be like, nope. I don't, like, I wouldn't even know what to do, Yeah. That's how wonderful I think he is. With that being said, like, I want to try to accomplish those things on my own now. I want to, a lot of these younger cats are coming up, like, we didn't come up, we came up on the samples and the, chopping your own drums, and these kids had piano lessons and guitar lessons, and they're incorporating it into their Ableton, and which is an amazing program, by the way. Like, I love Ableton. It took me a long time to come around to it, but now Splice and Ableton, like, woo, I'm just slapping beats out. But like, they had this training, they had this musicality, they grew up on more musical hip-hop than we did, and they're talented. And I want to work with the younger kids, because unlike the older dudes, like, a lot of older dudes are like, nah, like, you got to keep it classic or we'll have nothing to hold on to. It's like, yeah, but they said that about us. They said that about us. Every shift. We've seen the shift. We saw that terrible early 2000s shift with, like, the In the Club rap. Like, and now we're onto this trap stuff, but the trap stuff has lent itself to people like Kendrick, people like Shmino, like all these, like, weird, like, because trap is kind of infused hip-hop in some way into R&B, and hip-hop has always been connected to R&B, but now these sounds and these tempos are getting closer, and rappers are singers now, and, like, everything is kind of becoming this big, like, intertwined, beautiful thing. And just because you don't like one thing that this artist is doing, maybe listen to his producer, see what he's doing. Who else does he work with? Oh shit, he works with this singer? Cool, I really like that guy. Who does he work with? Like, instead of picking it apart, being like, this isn't the hip hop that, I want it to be. Find the things that you love out of it, and also they could use some advice from you. a lot, you know? Like, some of these younger kids could use some old head advice, but not that angry, old head, bitter shit. Like, how about some business advice for these kids? How about some, like, I did what you're about to do, and it did not turn out good for me. You know, like, some of that stuff would be good, instead of being like, your music is not hip-hop. Stop with that, you know? Like, let these kids make their music, because they're going to make some cool shit if you just let them do it. They're talented. They're more talented than I was, you know? So just let them go.
On that note, Grieves, thank you so much for joining us with Diggin The Crates.
Yeah, of course.
Good luck with it, man.
Thanks, man.
It's bad days, long nights, and strong medicine. If you can hear me knocking, you's about to let the devil in. Ain't nobody ringing my bell. I'm like the sun, but I run in the night. They let a devil grab a hold of the mic. Let's go. Ain't nobody ringing my bell. I glow like the sun, but I run in the night. They let a devil grab a hold of the mic.
To find out more about each episode, including the tracks played, go to thefindmag.com.